Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we're doing my 2021 ultimate favorites. I did do monthly rankings for the later half of the year and makeup favorites for the earlier half of the year, but I wanted to combine all my favorites together, see what really made the top of my lists. If you're curious, I did rank all my foundations and eyeshadow palettes that I tried this year in separate videos, but I'll mention some of my surprise favorites in this video. I think that's what I took as inspiration for what was actually my favorite. What surprised me the most and what did I surprisingly keep using a lot. That's the way I took this video up, and without any further ado, let's get into my favorite. Oh, real quick before I get started, I want to thank you so much for clicking on my video. My name is Cecile, I'm 28 years old, I live in the Netherlands, and I love trying new makeup, but I also love reusing my old favorites and coming up with new looks with the old products. I try some drugstore here and then, but my main focus is on high-end and luxury makeup. So that's a little bit about me, and now if you're interested in any of that, please consider subscribing. And now let's get into the video. I don't think I'm going to do this in any particular order because sometimes I group things by type and sometimes by brand, and I don't know, I'm just going to do whatever. So I'm going to start with some eye products. These are repeats from my eyeshadow ranking, but these two little palettes surprised me the most this year. I ranked my Huda Rose Quartz palette as #1 because it was just so good and the quality was so nice. I'm actually wearing that one right now and it's just, I love that one. But it wasn't a surprise, I knew I was going to. However, these two were a little bit more of a surprise. Smaller palettes haven't always had my interest anymore. I started out with mainly Dior Quints in my eyeshadow life. I know. But I refound my love for them. I use them a lot actually. For a little while there I was using mainly my big palettes, but this is the Nightbird palette from the fall collection of this year. And I just fell in love with these beautiful tones, especially these two. I know Dior gets a lot of love for their permanent collection, which is great, but I find this limited collection to be so special and this color story to be so interesting, and I did get a lot of love on the look that I did with it on YouTube. So I definitely wanted to mention this one. And then the other surprise was this Charlotte Tilbury quad, the Celestial Pearl. This was part of the holiday release. I just keep it just keeps surprising me in its simplicity. This is what the quad looks like. There's actually not a deepening up shade. This is the deepest shade in the palette, and it's actually, well, it's a mid-tone brown. It has these beautiful, this is a duochrome, these beautiful ultimately shiny shades, and I find it so pretty to do an all shimmer look with this one, and it just looks so sophisticated, and every time I use it I'm just so happy with the result. I keep looking at myself in the mirror whenever I wear this, and the packaging is also great. I hope Charlotte Tilbury keeps making pretty packaging like this. So I just wanted to quickly repeat those two eyeshadow favorites, but I actually have another eye thing that I really love. Because I finally tried the KVD Dazzle sticks over the summer. I only have one shade, I have Electro Bold, but this is so pretty. It's this beautiful, intense, pigmented, just very dense formula that blends out beautifully, and the more you blend it out the more the sparkles come through, but it doesn't lose any of its opacity. So this is just a beautiful shade. I especially love this over the summer with a little bit more shiny skin and a bright red lip, and then this on the eyes. Beautiful, but you can also dress it up a little bit with a darker shade around to contour. This was definitely an eyeshadow favorite that I couldn't mention in my eyeshadow palette video. Now we're moving into some brand surprises. This year Huda Beauty released a sub-brand or a daughter brand, I'm not sure what it is. It's called Glowish by Huda Beauty, and I tried two products of them. I really want to try the other two as well, but what I tried was the skin tint and the bronzer, and these became ultimate favorites almost instantly. But But what I did not realize was that I would also love them in another season. They came out in the summer, and I know a glowy skin tint seems very summer appropriate, but it was also very winter appropriate. I find myself reaching for this a lot whenever I want a little bit more full coverage, but I don't want it to look too foundation-y or too matte. This is pretty medium to full coverage because it's still a Huda product, but it has that beautiful shine, and the shine it has comes forth from little pearls in the formula and not from actual oils or something like that. So it's perfect for winter. So it's perfect for summer as well. But I like it in winter too because it's a little bit more of a hydrating formula. This is what shine looks like. I don't think it's too much, and even if I do think it's too much from time to time, I just set it with a little bit of powder and then it's fine. So that was definitely a favorite of mine. And then this bronzer was a real surprise. Even though, because I thought it wasn't going to make it into the top. Because at some point it created a little bit of heartburn over top of it. But I can still use it. It doesn't really matter. The pigment still comes off. And this is a beautiful, more subtle bronzer, which has a skin-like finish and a sort of light to medium coverage. It's not as intense as some of my other bronzers, but you can build it up, and it just looks amazing. Another sub-brand this year, of sorts, was the Dior Forever line. Dior started the year with, I think this was the first launch in their line, which was the Forever Nude foundation. This also ranked pretty high in my foundation ranking. And I just love the simplicity of this foundation. It does get a little bit glowy if you wear it for a longer period of time, but it starts off as being a beautiful natural foundation. Light to medium coverage, definitely buildable, but prettier when worn light. I've used quite a lot of this. This has actually been my go-to foundation for many a month. And I really liked it. But it wasn't the only Forever product that they released. No, they came out with a lot of them. They actually released the cushion powder not too long after, and I decided to pick this up over the summer. And this turned out to be a beautiful, pretty solid powder. It doesn't make your face look powdery, but it does really set your concealer very well. I find that when I use this powder, my concealer creases the least of all my powders. And I do actually have another powder favorite, but this is actually the best powder that I discovered this year. The only gripe with this one is that it's a little bit more skin tone. So I do use it when I want a little bit more of a natural look, but when I want this brightening like I have right now, then I need to use my other powder. Then I'm not sure what order these all came in, but I think what was next was the bronzer release. They had this beautiful cushiony front, and these products are, or at least this bronzer is supposed to be refillable. It does have the little hole in the back. So as you can probably see, I have a very deep dent in this one. This has been my go-to bronzer. I'm actually wearing it right now on top of a cream contour. The beautiful thing about this one is that you don't need to set your face before using it. It just blends out effortlessly into the rest of your face. And I've discovered this year that I don't like to set my whole face anymore. I just set my concealer and a little bit down the center of my face. But the areas at the periphery, I like to leave unset, and then I can use cream products if I want to, or I can use powder products like this one. But I've discovered through this bronzer that I can actually use that technique, so that was a great discovery. And then they released highlighters, and I think that's what everyone loved the most. But it took me a little while to get one of those because they're all very pricey, and you know, sometimes you have money and sometimes you don't. But when we were in Prague, I actually received one as a gift. So then I could complete my Forever collection, and I loved all of these products. So what I bought was the #1 highlighter, which is actually not the more natural version, but the very glitzy, sparkly, almost blue iridescent version. This is just such an intense, beautiful highlight. I know it's not everyone's favorite because it is very glittery. It actually looks a little bit like the Fenty, I don't know, glitter bombs. But I do find this one more pretty because it has different kinds of sparkle. And it has that little bit of a blue undertone. So I think it would have been pretty today too. But today I decided to try an eyeshadow as a highlighter. But the funny thing is about this packaging that it looks very similar to the bronzer. But the bronzer is actually a matte faux leather. And this is actually a shiny faux leather. So I thought it was very well done. So I can't wait to see what else they come out with this collection. I hope they also release blushes or something like that. Maybe a concealer. I'm gonna try it all for sure. Let's continue with a couple of base products. I discovered 2 concealers this year. One I can't currently locate for some reason. I discovered the Pat McGrath concealer, but that released a year ago, so I'm just going to give that as an honorable mention. But what did release this year was the ABH concealer. This is actually seen as a dupe of the new Tom Ford concealer, which is triple the price, but this one is not cheap either. But it is a very nice concealer. It has this huge doe foot, and for some reason this just blends out beautifully all over my face. I don't have to wait with this one to make sure it gets a little bit more tacky, as I usually do with my concealers. I can just blend it out straight away and it looks beautiful. It is a little bit light, so it's more of a glam concealer for me, but I've really been loving this one. It is necessary to set it with a powder though. So my favorite powder of late has been the Essence Brighten Up powder. This is supposed to be a very brightening powder, as it says, but for me it's light enough to use all over. Except that I don't anymore, I just set the center of my face. I do have a huge pan in this one, because I use it almost every day. I use this one or the Dior powder or my Gucci pressed powder, but I discovered that a year earlier. Those are actually the only powders that I use. This was meant to replace my Guerlain Meteorites powder that I raved about in 2020, but I finished that one up and it's not available anymore. So I decided to give this one a try because I like a brightening powder because I'm so fair. Almost every powder darkens up, deepens up my concealer, but this one doesn't. The only downfall with this one is it doesn't prevent creasing as good as the Guerlain powder did. But it does give a very similar effect on the skin. It does look very soft. And I really like this one. I just have to use a little bit more or use a concealer that I can use with this one. If I use the ABH with this powder, sometimes I get a little bit of creasing, but I guess I don't really mind. I can usually just press it away, but I still really like this powder. It is nice and light. I did discover 2 products this year that were actually released a lot earlier, and those are 2 primers or primer type products. One is the Hollywood Flawless Filter by Charlotte Tilbury. I know this is a classic for many years, so I'm not going to linger on this one for too long, but I did try it only this year. I actually have it underneath my foundation, only on the high points of my face today, and I really didn't need any highlighter afterwards. I used the Tinted Moisturizer by Chanel. So this is a beautiful product. I like to smear it all over my face and then put a foundation on top, preferably a little bit more of a matte one, so this is the only shine that comes through, but I can also use it with more natural to slightly glowy foundations. I actually also like pairing it with my Forever Natural Nude. And I do also use this as a highlighter on top, but I do that a little bit less. But anyway, I've been really loving this product. And then the big discovery in the primer category has definitely been my YSL Blur Primer. I did buy this in 2020, but I really started using it in 2021 when I discovered that it's perfect for underneath thicker foundations. So I've discovered that I only like the Huda Faux Filter foundation, that is actually high on my list, with this primer, because that's so thick that if you don't use a slippery primer underneath, you just get a cake face. But if you do use this one, it just spreads out evenly and beautifully and a lot more thin. And then it's still high coverage, but it looks a little bit more pretty, a little bit more thinner. So I've been loving this foundation for underneath all my high coverage matte thicker foundations. And also when they're a little bit thinner but still high coverage and matte, I can sheer it out a little bit by using this primer underneath. So this has been a big discovery for me. I think those were all of my base products mentions. Now I want to quickly mention a couple of brow products. I think everyone mentions these, but they were my favorites as well, so I'm going to as well. I discovered the ABH Brow Freeze and the NYX Lift and Snatch. And originally I only liked this one because this is a perfect product. It laminates your brows onto your skin. You can make them any kind of shape. It looks a little bit fake. So that's why I thought I could draw in additional hairs, making it look a little natural. But at first this pencil didn't really work for me. Maybe it was just that I hadn't gotten the technique down, but the strokes looked very thick and very fake but for some reason I've started to become better at it and it looks a lot better now. It does sometimes leave a little bit of a red undertone, but I'm not sure what causes that. It's supposed to be this nice taupey color, which is perfect for my skin tone, or my hair tone, I mean. But yeah, I'm still gonna mention this as a favorite because it's the best brow pencil, brow flick kind of product that I tried. Now we're moving into some cream products, because the other thing I'd like to mention this year is that I discovered cream products. Again, most people did discover cream products in 2020, but I only discovered them in 2021 for real. From Fenty, I bought the cream bronzer and the cream blush in Prague again, so in the summer. And for the bronzer, I decided to use the contour shade, which is Amber, and I've been loving this one. It really is very cool toned, so you get this intense hollow in your cheek, and sometimes it's actually even a little bit too much. I think on camera it looks a little bit more heavy than it does in real life. But the beauty of this product is that it's a little bit more shiny. It doesn't move very easily, but it does give a little bit of a glow, so it just melts into your foundation beautifully. So I like using this for actually when I want a glam look, but I still want it to look a little bit more skin-like and natural. And this cream blush actually started a big blush kick that I had, a cream blush kick. I have the shade Strawberry Drip. As you can see, there's actually also a bit of a dent in this one. But it didn't stop there. I also bought quite quickly after the little milk stick in the shade Flip. And I really like this one as well. Then I wanted to dive into a little bit more natural or more berry colors, so I decided to try the Revolution Super Dewy liquid blushes. I got two shades, and I really like the shade You Got Me Blushing, which is a little bit more of a deep shade, but it does blend out beautifully. Recently I also tried the Mitchell Blush. I have this in the shade Can't Cope with Coral. And this is actually one of my current favorites. So I'm really trying to dive into the cream blush world. I actually have a Sisley one on right now in a nice peachy pinky shade. So I really like cream products now, and I sometimes combine them with other products, but sometimes I just use them on their own. The only thing I haven't really discovered a good example of is a liquid highlighter, except for the Flawless Filter, which I sort of use as an under highlighter and not as an actual highlighter. I haven't found any that didn't break up my makeup or that were shiny enough, but I'll keep looking. If you have any good recommendations for that, then please let me know. So I just quickly wanted to show you those cream blushes. Most of them didn't even release this year, so yeah, I just wanted to show them. Oh, something that did release this year that I forgot to mention when we were talking about eyes is this icing primer by Glamlight. This is actually the primer I keep using. It's actually flattened out quite a bit, but I'm sure this tube will last me for at least another year. I discovered this in the summer and I haven't put it down since. There were other primers that I picked up occasionally, but this is definitely my favorite. It blends out so easily and it gives such a solid base, but it's a little bit tacky, so eyeshadows stick to it very well. The only thing is that you can't use too much of this one, because then it will crease, but I feel like I've got the ratio down. And I am wearing it right now, and it makes the eyeshadows look beautiful. So I love this one. Some other eye products I'd like to mention. I've really discovered these pastel liners by LA Girl. I actually also have a couple of other colors, but these were the ones I could find easily. These are really nice and pigmented. I'm actually wearing the purple one in my waterline right now, and I feel like it's still very visible. Sometimes these colors fade after an hour, but these ones don't. They stick very well, and I like using these with any kind of colorful eyeshadow looks. I've also really loved the Essence Black eyeliner, but I discovered that in 2020. For mascaras, I've actually only discovered one favorite, but I do think it released this year, which is the Catrice Lift Up Volume and Lift Mascara. I used the waterproof one. This is actually from my empties. I need to repurchase that one, but I don't like to keep too many mascaras open at the same time. For some reason, this just looks so insanely voluminous. I'm not sure if it's the wand or if it's the formula, and since it's waterproof it doesn't transfer underneath my eyes, which the new Essence mascara that I've been trying does do. So I've been really liking this Catrice one. I definitely recommend it. I'm going to repurchase it as soon as my Essence mascara runs out. Alright, we've only got a couple of products left. I want to mention 2 face palettes because I really like face palettes. I use them pretty much every day. I use them for the mirror and then I use any kind of shade that I still need for my face from that palette. So the ones that I've been really liking are this one from NARS. This is the Orgasm on the Beach. I don't think this is available anymore, but I did want to mention it because I think it's the best NARS palette that they've released in a while. Not that I tried that many, but also what I heard from other people. I really like these 2 blushes. I've been using those a lot. The highlighter is a little bit too deep for me, but I can actually use it as a blush or a blush topper. And I can actually use this blush as a contour. So it is a pretty full-rounded, well-rounded face palette for me. And I really like the simplicity of this packaging. The face palette that I, however, have been using the most is this one from Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Instant Look of Love in a palette in the shade Pretty Blush Beauty. I did also mention this in my palette ranking because it has eyeshadows in it. But the eyeshadows are not what makes me love this palette. What makes me love this palette are specifically the bronzer and the blush and the kind of the highlight, but mainly the bronzer and the blush. For some reason this blush just looks so nice on me. It's this beautiful girly shade without being too pink or too orange or anything else. It's a beautiful neutral shade, and this bronzer really looks like a bronzer on me. It's supposed to be more of a contour, but it really does bronze my face. It's a little bit more intense, but I like that. I like this a lot more than I like the loose bronzer that I have, which is actually a little bit too light. This is a perfect shade for me. I just have to be a little bit careful with it. And I do really like these eyeshadows as well. I just don't use them as often. But yeah, I feel like this is a beautiful all-rounded palette. The only gripe I have with this one is that the face powder is a little bit dark. I can't use it underneath my eyes. But that's okay. It's still a good powder. I can still use it over the rest of my face. And this has a beautiful mirror that stands up on its own. So I really like using this palette whenever I'm doing my makeup. So we're almost at the end. The only thing I like to mention are 3 lip products that I discovered this year. One of them is this Chanel lip formula. This is actually the Rouge Coco Bloom, which is a new formula that they released at the beginning of the year. I bought a nice red shade and just look at this swatch. Look at that intensity and how easy it glid on my face. On my hand. There's this beautiful shiny factor to it. This is the shade 140 Alive. And I've been using this one, especially the first half of the year. I've been using this one a lot. It does transfer a little bit, but as you can see, it does sort of leave a stain. So I feel like it's pretty long lasting, even though it does transfer. And this comes in a lot of shades, in a lot of reds actually as well, but also some nudes or pinky shades. I've actually been dying to pick up another shade of this one, but like I said, I don't have endless possibilities with my money. Another new formula that released this year was from Huda Beauty. They released their cream lipsticks, and I have one in the shade Gold Digger. This actually looks disgusting because it's almost done. This is all that I have left, but it broke off. So I do still use this one. I just have to wipe my hands whenever I do. It's this beautiful deep brown shade and it has this amazing shine. It's like you put on a lip gloss on top of it. That actually also counts a little bit for the Chanel lipstick. That's the kind of formula I've really been loving. And then I did want to mention one honorable mention because I've been using it like crazy, but it is a little bit of an older formula. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Kissing formula, and the shade I've been using the most is definitely Live It Up. This is all I have left of it. I've also been loving the shade Angel Alessandra from the Hot Lips 2 collection, which is almost done as well, but this one is sort of iconic for my year. Every time I wore a shade like this on the eyes or something cool toned, I picked up this lipstick. And I feel like if I have to mention one lipstick that surmises 2021, then it's that one. But I love all these Charlotte Tilbury lipsticks. I'm actually wearing her Matte Revolution one right now, and I've been loving that one as well. This is in the shade, I'm not sure what it's something with Sandy. I'm not sure, but I've been loving all of her formulas, but I wanted to give Live It Up a special mention. And I think that's it for my favorites this year. There are, of course, many things that I've been loving, but some of them I've not been using as much. For some reason they didn't get into my rotation yet, or I'm still trying to figure them out. These are the solid favorites of 2021. Things that I've been using a lot, that I've been loving, that I've finished up in some occasions, or I'm halfway there. I can really solidly say that I love them. So I hope you got some inspiration from this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.